Texas high school football never stops, even when there is a global pandemic. And proof positive is still in his Buffalo gear. We were joined by the head coach of the Buffalo Bison, Coach Brandon Houston. Coach, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing okay. This is some kind of uncharted waters, no doubt.
I'm interested in what you're doing with your kids, what you're doing with your players. In this time, obviously, you mentioned uncharted waters. How are you handling it with your team?
Well, we use something called Rack Performance, which has an online and an app-based workout. So we put together three different at-home workouts that our kids can do. Push-ups, squat, the traditional stuff. And they have the ability. It's on a timer. They can go in and utilize that. It does check that. So our kids, I can tell you which kids have logged in and which haven't. We've also just, there's so many things on the Twitter world out there of different workouts that people have been doing that our school is using that distance learning now. And so on our school website, every teacher has put up their assignments. So we've created one for athletics that has a few PDF files of just, hey, you can try this, you can do that. And, one thing about Buffalo kids, they're probably honestly out working on the ranch or working on the farm. So very few of them, I bet you, are just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, I'll tell you that I've been to Buffalo. Plenty of distance between. You can get a lot of distance between people. You know what I mean? You don't got to worry about crowds there.
No, it's like I said, tell people all the time, we are in the middle of nowhere, but we're close to a lot of stuff.
That's a really good way to put it. Another thing I think people are really thinking about. Obviously, summer's coming up as quick as it can, and that's time for State 7-on-7. You've been involved with State 7-on-7 for a long time. Can you give us just kind of a status report about what you guys are thinking these days? Obviously, we're not quite there yet, but we're coming up on it. What's the mindset among the 7-on-7 board?
Well, just, obviously we had to postpone or cancel the Frisco SQT, which was coming up in April. But right now, obviously talking with Doug Stevens, obviously our executive director, he'll ultimately, drive the big part of our decision. But right now we're going to kind of follow what UIL has said. There's not really a reason to make any knee-jerk reaction right now. Most of our tournaments aren't until mid-May. Obviously, we want to see what UIL does as far as when we restart with track and baseball, and we still got some championships to be played in basketball. So we'll kind of follow their lead and see where they go, and we'll work around that schedule. Obviously, we don't want to postpone, or even cancel for sure. Especially if we're going to lose a lot of our springtime, teams are losing spring football, then 7-on-7 could become a huge factor in preparation for the fall. For small schools, that is our spring ball. Mm-hmm. So, but we will not do anything to supersede what UIL says.
Let's talk a little bit about your Bison in 2019, an 8-3 season. On one hand, you guys go 6-1 in district, and things are looking good. On the other hand, bounced in the first round of the playoffs in a heartbreaker to Rogers. I'm interested how you would kind of categorize what your 2019 season really was.
Well, we had a really, really successful 2018, at least in terms of Buffalo High School. And, we feel like we're in our infancy stage of trying to push this thing forward. Well, we did graduate 14 seniors off of that 2018 team, and every one of them were a major contributor. So we had a lot of unanswered questions coming into 2019, but we were really with how kids responded. And so, 8-3, I'd like, around here that has been good. But for us, I think our kids were disappointed in the first round loss. So, but it was exciting to see this. We had a lot of young kids. We had 2 freshmen start for us on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, both of them coming back. That's outstanding. We had some juniors in some key roles last year. Really looking forward to what 2020 might bring.
We're talking with Brandon Houston, the head coach of the Buffalo Bison here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation and hashtag TF Today. I know one of those guys that I know you're excited to welcome back is your signal caller, and Brett Hoffman. a guy who threw for nearly 2,000 yards a year ago, ran for 600 yards, a guy who I know showed some really, really good stuff last year. What is it about Brett Hoffman that sets him apart? What is it that makes him special?
I mean, he throws a really good ball. I mean, he's probably more traditional pocket passer, which, you know, is not really what I like to do, but he's kind of, we call him deceptively slow. You know, he's not a slow kid. He's tall. He's about 6'3". He's pushing about 190. You know, that's a big kid in 3A football. And so he does have a large stride. So he's able to run the ball with a lot more efficiency than people give him credit for. I mean, we didn't call a lot of quarterback runs for him to account for 600 yards. Now, unfortunately, that does account as sack yardage. But what he really started to do as the year progressed was learn to function within our offense. He was a great distributor of the ball. And ultimately, I think in most offenses, you need your quarterback to be able to get the ball to who needs it when they need it. And he did a really good job of that the later the season went. I think that really showed up in our big games.
I think that, you know, you mentioned that this is still a program that, as far as you building it and getting it to where you want it to be, is still kind of in its infancy. You're still in your third year there at Buffalo. How have you seen this program change, maybe from when you arrived to where you guys are now?
I think, you know, some of the things, again, not to disparage anything that came before me, so I don't want this to sound like we've done something miraculous here, but just the expectation of our kids. Like, there's, you know, we don't have to count reps. I mean, they know what the job is. When they come in, they see the board, they know what is going to be done, asked of them, and they do it. So I think just on that level of, you know, you hear defiant, compliant, committed, you know, that scale, not 100% familiar with it, but, you know, I think our kids have moved along that scale. They understand what the expectations are. We talk all the time about closing gaps. I mean, a gap exists in 3A football. You know, you have the Canadians and the Gunners and Newtons and that group up there. You know, and there's a gap that exists between that group and a group that the tier that, you know, we feel like we might be in. So our kids understand that we're going to ask them to do some things to help close that gap. And in 2018, I don't want to say they were defiant against it, but it was new. And so now we're in 2020. These kids understand, hey, we've got to do some things if we intend to get to be on that statewide stage where some of these schools are. So just the willingness to try new things and the expectation level of what work is.
UIL realignment's come and gone, and I see you shaking your head. I mean, there are teams that got things shaken up, and there are teams that got things turned upside down. And then there's y'all, where you guys are thrust into not only a district with a tremendous Division I drop down in Franklin. You're in there, you know, you get Rogers, Clifton, Lexington. You get I think a dangerous 2A promotion in Riesel, and you're moving over to Region 4. Did you, like, when Realignment came out, was this at all what you were expecting?
Well, we kind of felt like we might go with Franklin. We felt like Franklin dropping down and Riesel coming up could maybe make a little stir. We didn't envision it kicking us all the way to Region 4. We thought we might go Region 3. But let's just say that on that morning when it came out, I was at a loss for words, perhaps, maybe. But, you know, in all seriousness, I think this is going to be some great, great football week in and week out. Who knows where this thing's going to shake out. At our district meeting, we probably spent 45 minutes going over the specifics of what the tiebreaker is going to look like. Because who knows, this thing could just be a jumbled mess, which is good for fans. And it's good for our kids to play teams that are competitive. But it makes it tough on coaches when every week, you know, you're in for a dogfight.
Finally, it's Brandon Houston of Buffalo joining us here on Texas Football Today. Coach, coaches are spending a lot more time at home these days. And, I mean, look, coaches are generally not around the house very often to begin with. Generally, they're workaholics. I know you are, especially. I guess my question is your wife and daughter sick of you yet?
Well, I had to kick my daughter off the computer so that I could do this. So, yeah, she's a little
Yeah. It's tough.
Now the good news is I have grilled more in the last 2 weeks probably than I have in the last year.
Hey, there's a silver lining.
There is. And then I am the vacuum guy. I have vacuumed every day. Now, little tidbit, we have one of those electric that you just say, hey, Google, and it does it. So, but technically I still vacuumed, right? It got done.
You get credit for it.
I get credit. So
absolutely.
But I live literally less than a minute from the school, so it's easy just to pop over there. And, there are times when my wife's like, don't you have some emails you need to go check or something? But it has been, my daughter's a senior, so I was talking with our principal today. This is starting to get to that, I don't want to say, there are way bigger things in life, obviously, with what's going on. But, as a parent, I'm missing out on some senior things with my daughter. So on that end, as a parent, I kind of want them to get back to school just so we can enjoy the last couple of months we have of her senior year.
And she wants you out of the house just because it's dad at home.
Right.
He's Brandon Houston. He's the head coach of the Buffalo Bison. Follow him on Twitter at Coach Huey. Coach, appreciate your time. Thanks for hopping on with us. Please be safe, and I'm sure we'll be talking down the road.
Yes, sir. Thank you for everything you do. Take care.